So for my final project, I decided to go with a simple voting GUI. All this GUI does is it asks for a user ID and then a candidate to vote for. One of the stipulations with the ID is it will not take an ID that's already voted. Since the text file here is empty, technically anything I vote for or any ID I use will not have voted yet. So it doesn't really matter what I input for now. If I try and input this, it'll ask me to select a candidate. Say I want to select John Doe. It'll ask me if I'm sure that I want to select John Doe. I can either press confirm or cancel. Say for whatever reason I want to vote for Jane Smith. I press cancel, select Jane Smith, press vote, asks me again if I'm sure, and then I confirm it. It tells me vote submitted and clears everything out. If I go over to id.txt, it shows the ID here. So now if I try and use it again, it won't let me. And then as well as the CSV file, if it doesn't exist, it'll create one. And then you see it appends the voter ID here as well as the candidate I voted for. Now, if I try and input the same ID again, it'll say that this ID is already voted. I can input something else like this. I'll press John Doe, confirm it. And now if I go to ID, inputs the new ID used there, and then the ID, the voter ID here, and then the candidate they voted for. Some of the things that I learned how to do when creating this GUI was I learned how to hard code some of the buttons in. So I had an issue where in the Qt Designer, I wanted to use the OK and cancel. I believe it was called the Q button or the button box. That I wanted to use the button box, but I wasn't quite sure how to use it. So what I ended up doing is instead of going back through and then accidentally or going through and resetting all of this by creating a new box, I instead hard coded all of this myself. This right here, this is redundant, shouldn't really be there, but this, I hard coded all this myself and then went through and then created the confirm cancel, and then I also learned how to hide them in the vote logic. So once it won't show the buttons until you press or once you press the vote button, and then it goes through and makes sure all of the parameters are met. It won't show them until then by setting them as visible. And then one of the issues I ran into was an appending issue, where when I pressed cancel, it would just input a blank line, and then over here it would just give me null values, which shouldn't have been happening since technically nobody was voting, and nobody was voting. It still just took them and inputted all of the stuff that it saw. So I fixed that by doing a little digging, and I was running into a Stack Overflow error, or basically this was running twice. So after I clicked cancel, it still went through and appended everything. So what I did is it would raise type errors if I clicked anything and the parameters weren't met. Like if I clicked the cancel button, it would raise the type error and then it would pass. So it would then pass through this and then restart from the beginning. Same here. If there was any type error issues ran into, it would pass through and restart again. But if every parameter was met and no errors were raised, it would go through and go to the confirm vote or the cancel vote, depending on what you clicked. And then some of the concepts that helped was using OS. So I've had it happen before, where I would write the headers here, but in my code, it would write it multiple times every single time I voted. So then M. Peterson would be here, and then it would do it again on line 2, where it'd say voter ID, candidate, and then it would have the ID right below it as well as the candidate. Learned how to use the OS module by going and doing where to have it at. The file, I have a file exists variable right here. And then it checks if that file exists. If it doesn't, it will go ahead and write in the headers there, and then it'll write in the stuff below it, and then that's about it. another thing that also helped was knowing how to use modules and whatnot, import stuff, as well as classes, which helped me break things up and clean up my code a little bit better. That was about it.